in the shadowy corners of folklore and forgotten ritual. A curious myth persists that the tolling of certain bells, each tuned to a specific note, can guide souls through the realms of death and repel malevolent forces. Known colloquially as death bells, these instruments are said to resonate not just through air, but across metaphysical boundaries. This belief, though dismissed by many as superstition, continues to echo through cultures, spiritual practices, and even emerging digital mysticism. From medieval cathedrals to TikTok rituals, the idea that sound can shape our experience of death and, perhaps even protect us from it remains hauntingly alive. The myth of the notes, according to legend, each bell note corresponds to a distinct layer of the afterlife or a specific metaphysical function. These tonal associations vary by region and tradition, but some recurring motifs have emerged. C-sharp, said to open the veil between the living and the dead, allowing communication with ancestors, often used in seances or ancestral rites. Believed to calm restless spirits and guide them toward peace, associated with mourning rituals and spiritual release. Used in protective ceremonies to ward off demonic entities, psychic parasites, or malevolent energies. A flat linked to liminal spaces, thresholds between worlds. Mystics claim it helps navigate dream realms, astral projections, or near-death experiences. These associations are not rooted in standardized musical theory, but emerge from oral traditions, esoteric texts, and symbolic interpretations of sound. In some versions of the myth, the bells must be struck in a specific sequence to unlock a metaphysical passage or repel a particular force. Historical echoes across cultures, the use of bells in death rituals is ancient and widespread. In medieval Europe, church bells were rung at funerals, not only to honor the dead, but to banish evil spirits believed to linger near the corpse. The tolling was thought to purify the air and guide the soul toward heaven. In Tibetan Buddhism, bells and singing bowls are central to death rites. The sound is believed to guide consciousness through the bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. Each tone corresponds to a specific mental or spiritual state, helping the soul navigate its journey. West African traditions use iron bells in funerary and protective rituals. These bells are believed to summon ancestral spirits and ward off witchcraft. The Yoruba people, for example, incorporate bells into Egungun ceremonies, which honor the dead and invoke their guidance. In Japan, temple bells are rung 108 times on New Year's Eve to cleanse the soul of worldly desires. Practice that, while not directly linked to death, reflects the belief in sound as a spiritual purifier. A fictional fragment. The bellkeeper of Vire, in the French town of Vire. Legend tells of a 17th-century bellkeeper named Etienne Moreau, who claimed to possess a set of 7 bells, each tuned to a different note. According to local law, Moreau used these bells to perform clandestine rites for grieving families' rituals, said to help the dead find their way. One account describes a woman whose child had died suddenly. She approached Moreau, desperate to know if her son's soul was at peace. Moreau performed a midnight ceremony, striking the e-bell repeatedly while chanting in Latin. The woman later claimed to have dreamt of her son smiling. Surrounded by light, though dismissed by historians as folklore, the tale of Moreau's bells continues to inspire occultists and sound healers today. Sound and the brain. A scientific lens, modern neuroscience offers intriguing insights into why bell tones might feel spiritually potent. Predictive processing theory posits that the brain constantly models reality based on sensory input. In liminal or traumatic states such as grief, near-death experiences, or altered consciousness, auditory cues like bell tones may help stabilize perception. Dr. Lena Vos, a cognitive neuroscientist at the University of Amsterdam, explains that sound is one of the most primal sensory inputs. Rhythmic or tonal patterns can entrain brainwaves, influencing emotional states, memory recall, and even spatial awareness. In ritual contexts, bells may act as anchors, helping the brain construct a coherent narrative during moments of existential disorientation. This may explain why bell tones are used in meditation, hypnosis, and trauma therapy. The mythic power of death bells could be a symbolic encoding of this neurological functional way for ancient cultures to externalize and ritualize the brain's need for order in chaos. Digital resurrection. Death bells in the age of TikTok in recent years. Death bells have resurfaced in urban mysticism circles. TikTok users post videos experimenting with tuning forks, bell apps, and sound baths, claiming certain frequencies induce lucid dreams, astral travel, or protection from energetic parasites. One viral video shows a user striking a G-note bell while reciting a protection mantra. The comments are filled with anecdotes. I did this before bed and had the clearest dream of my grandmother. I felt something leave my room when I played this tone. While skeptics dismiss these as placebo effects or confirmation bias, others argue that belief itself is a kind of magic. The ritualized use of sound, even in digital form, may tap into deep psychological and symbolic structures. Controversies and criticisms. Not everyone is convinced. Critics argue that the myth of death bells can be exploited by spiritual charlatans or used to avoid confronting grief in healthy ways. Some psychologists warn that ritualized sound practices, if not grounded in therapeutic frameworks, may reinforce magical thinking or dissociation. There is also debate within the sound healing community about the ethics of assigning metaphysical properties to specific notes. Without empirical validation, these associations risk becoming dogma. Yet others defend the myth as metaphor, as sound healer Maya Elrami puts it. We don't need to believe that a bell opens a literal portal. What matters is the intention, the focus, the symbolic act. Sound is a language of the unconscious. It speaks to parts of us that words can't reach. Philosophical reflections. Sound as portal, the myth of death bells, invites deeper questions about the nature of sound, consciousness, and mortality. Why do we instinctively associate certain tones with transcendence? Why does the toll of a bell evoke solemnity or even fear? Philosopher and musicologist Dr. Tomusz Zelensky suggests that bell tones occupy a unique space in human perception. Bells are neither speech nor music. They are pure resonance, placeless. When we hear a bell, we are momentarily suspended between worlds. It's no wonder they've been used to mark births, deaths, and spiritual transitions. In this view, the myth of death bells is less about supernatural mechanics and more about symbolic resonance. The bell becomes a metaphor for the boundary between known and unknown, life and death, self and other. Conclusion. The toll that transcends, whether viewed as superstition, spiritual technology, or psychological metaphor. The myth of death bells continues to captivate in a world increasingly saturated with noise. Perhaps the ancient toll of a single bell still holds the power to guide, protect, and transform as we navigate grief, mystery, and the unseen architecture of consciousness. The idea that sound can shape our journey remains both haunting and hopeful. The death bell tolls not as an end, but as an invitation to listen more deeply.